When I first got these glow-in-the-dark Luciola switches, I was a little worried. So the thing is, my keyboard and home office setup is all in my bedroom, and I wondered if because these Luciolas glowed in the dark, would I need to tuck my keyboard into bed each night before I went to bed myself to prevent my keyboard from disrupting my sleep. The story gets a little weirder, but let's begin with the specs. So the Luciolas are the latest linear switches from Gateron. They feature Gateron's proprietary ink housings, the same ones found in famous options like the ink blacks. But these ones are a lime green, like the ones you find in a sports drink. As you type on them, when you near the bottom out, you feel a little more resistance, which is due to the lengthy, double-staged springs. So it feels like super responsive, which is really refreshing if you're coming from a switch with a standard spring like I did. These are factory lubed as well, and Gateron, as usual, has done a great job with them. They feel smooth and consistent across all the switches. The bottom out force is 60 grams, which is right around the medium mark in terms of weight for switches, so the weight should feel pretty acceptable for most. But the travel distance is a bit on the shorter side, coming in at 3.6 millimeters. So when I switched over from a switch with a full 4mm travel, it was like, whoa, these feel much more condensed. But I got used to it pretty quickly. So it's an enjoyable type feel, but it always helps to put these side by side against other switches to better contextualize them. I've chosen two other linears from Gateron, the Baby Raccoons and the Ink Black V2s. When comparing these Luciolas to the Baby Raccoons, which are another personal favorite, these do share the same liveliness, I'd say. Both share a long, dual-stage spring and the same travel distance. But the Luciolas do not have the Baby Raccoon's super resonant sound profile. In this regard, the Luciolas are just like the ink switches such as the Ink Black, which would make sense because they share the same housings. The Luciolas and Ink's sound signature isn't exactly the same, but you can tell that they're kind of like cousins to each other. The Inks are a little chirpier, whereas the Luciolas are a little crisper and cleaner. So it does feel like the Luciolas are a synthesis between the Baby Raccoons and something like the Ink Blacks. Here's a quick sound test of just these three on switch testers. But to talk more about the sound, these are somewhat on the hollow side of things. To me, it has the sound profile of like shaking a can of spray paint. Take a listen for yourself. But yeah, sound tests are always situation dependent due to stuff like specific keyboard and mic setup. I recommend trying them yourself, just so you can hear them in person before deciding whether or not you want to pull the trigger on these. I'll link to our Try Before You Buy program down below the like button. Now the elephant in the room, the visuals. These are named after the Luciola fireflies, which would make sense, you know, glow in the dark and all. So here's what it looks like when the switches are installed into the keyboard. They do emit a glow, but thankfully it doesn't like light up the entire room. It's like a really ambient glow. If you do want to use RGB with these switches though, these do give like a lime tint to everything. It's not really noticeable if you're using some rainbow color pattern, but if you just turn on the white lights, it's not going to look white, it's going to give a lime tint to everything. Luciolas do need to be charged by light before they're able to glow. I was a little concerned that the switches wouldn't see any light and therefore wouldn't charge once I installed them in my keyboard and covered them up with keycaps, but it does. So you can just leave your keyboard on the desk and it'll do its thing. But it's important to note that the glow will dissipate pretty quickly too. Even in the course of a photo shoot, as I was recording this review, they get noticeably dimmer. So my guess is that you'll only see the glow right after sunset or something, when it stops charging, and when it gets dark enough for you to actually see the glow. The thing to note is that a few hours after charging, they're probably going to be out of juice at that point. But yeah, these go for $6.50 for 10 at Milktooth. Again, I really recommend trying them yourself, especially for this switch. Usually, sound and feel are all that matters when it comes to a switch, but for this one, visuals are also really important. So it's now three things that you have to consider. And because comparison is everything in switches, it's nice to have them side by side with 9 other switches in your try at home box, so you can really hone in on your preferences. So I think the glow-in-the-dark aspect of the Luciolas will get your attention, but thankfully it's not a one-trick pony. Even if these did not glow, they would still go hard. And in that regard, I think the Luciolas are successful. The medium heft, smooth and bouncing typing feel, and the hollow canvas spray paint being shaken sound profile will make these enjoyable for many. If you've enjoyed this video, you can check out this video here where I talk about the top 5 tactile switches of 2023. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.